we continue to inform you about the events on the front line of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Before we begin, friends, don't forget to like this video in support of the Ukrainian people who are fighting for their freedom. Bayraktar destroys the supply vehicle of the Russian armed forces. Note that whenever air defense fails, Bayraktars immediately start working. By the way, the frequent use of Bayraktars lately indicates that the Russian armed forces have serious problems with air defense and electronic warfare. In the Kupiansk sector, Ukrainian defenders are achieving localized success. The guys pushed the Russian Federation back from two settlements by about 400 to 500 meters. Russia continues tank attacks in the Kupiansk-Lyman sector. A lot of equipment is burning. The Ukrainian armed forces have a problem because of the Jerabets River. Soldiers cannot get to all the crossings through which heavy equipment passes. At the same time, the risk of a massive Russian offensive on this front is decreasing. The occupiers have already begun to withdraw some troops from the front line and move them to the Tokmak direction. Experts suggest that the generals of the armed forces of Ukraine deliberately pushed the enemy to take this step. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance aircraft from the 27th Brigade of the National Guard destroyed 3 tanks in the eastern sector. While you're watching this footage, we'd like to tell you that over the past day, the aviation of the defense forces conducted 9 strikes on areas where personnel, weapons and military equipment were concentrated and 5 on enemy anti-aircraft missile systems. This was reported by the General Staff. Last week, Ukrainian troops liberated 3 square kilometers in the Bakhmut sector from the occupiers. Now you can see the assault on Russian positions from a first-person perspective. This footage was captured by a camera attached to a soldier's helmet. Judging by the voiceover, the Ukrainian soldier says that he is 100 meters away from the enemy. The assault takes place in the forest plantations in Donetsk region. The video was posted by the General Staff in the Telegram channel. The assault was carried out by the soldiers of the 1st Company of the 1st Assault Battalion of the 3rd Assault Brigade near Bakhmut. Zaporizhia Front. The Russian army built 3 defense lines in Zaporizhia. However, the first line took 3 times longer to complete than the second and third. The Ukrainian Armed Forces Command assures that the soldiers will advance faster in the future. Yevhen Daiky, former commander of the Assault Company of the Ada Battalion, explained that such publications appeared after the news of the Ukrainian Armed Forces crossing the so-called Dragon's Teeth. However, these defenses are only the beginning of the second line of the Russian Federation. They are followed by many minefields and trenches. But there is one thing, there are much fewer of them than there were before the first line, because Russia spent 20% of its budget on strengthening the second and third lines of defense. Now Ukrainian soldiers are passing them. At the same time, according to the military, when the Ukrainian armed forces enter Tokmak, Russia will not be able to hold Melitopol and Berdyansk. Therefore, this battle could be decisive. Analysts of the Institute for War Studies published maps of the current situation in the area where the Ukrainian armed forces are advancing. In particular, they showed the area near Robotyne and Verbove. It can be seen that between Robotyne and the next settlement, Novoprokopivka, the area is indeed almost free of Russian armed forces fortifications. However, halfway to Tokmak, there is another solid line of Russian fortifications. In the Zaporizhia sector, the occupants dug a network of underground passages. The National Guard showed how they are storming the positions of the Russian army. The underground passages are in addition to the densely mined territory. Soldiers of the 44th Artillery Brigade smashed to pieces a column of Russian trucks with infantry south of Verbove. Reinforcements have not arrived. Russia has 10 times more ammunition than Ukraine. However, Ukrainian soldiers use them much more effectively. The Biden administration agreed to send the ammunition in early summer, as Ukraine's lack of ammunition threatened its counteroffensive. The commander of the artillery unit of the Bohun Brigade, who goes by the call sign Musician, told CBS News that the munitions give the Ukrainians a crucial advantage in the absence of air power. Cluster munitions allow Ukrainian troops to clear territory quickly because they can hit a large area of land with a single round. The Ukrainian military claims that the failure rate, the number of bombs that did not explode, for US cluster munitions was very low. They were almost 100% effective. Moscow used older versions with higher failure rates. Meanwhile, in the Tavria sector, enemy losses amounted to 249 people, 76 killed, 170 wounded, 3 captured, over the past day. Ukraine destroyed 20 units of enemy military equipment and 2 ammunition depots over the last 2 weeks. 17 BC warehouses and 18 bases headquarters were destroyed. This is 2 to 3 objects per day. Similarly, the average number of combat engagements has been hovering around 25 to 27 skirmishes per day for some time now. In the spring it was about 60. Most of the attacks are carried out by the Ukrainian side. Russia has problems with manpower that could be trained and counterattack. Russian equipment burns quickly.